Hello and welcome to my 4.2 Graphing and Linear Equations video. This is based off of the Math Makes Sense 9 textbook. So we're going to start off with an example question here. And if you haven't watched the previous video, Making Linear Equations, please watch that one first. On most Canadian highways, the speed limit is 110 kilometers per hour. Make an equation based off the speed if you started 25 kilometers from the start. Make a distance versus time graph based off this equation. So, first of all, I made myself a little table here. And every kilometer, so it's per kilometer, I go 110 kilometers. So I start at 25 and 0 hours. And then I add 110 kilometers each time. So if you look here, this is plus 110. Here again, plus 110. Plus 110. Whoops. From here to here, plus 110. And we could keep going, and you could drive across Canada with that. Okay? So let's make a distance versus time graph based off this equation. So let's make a little graph here. Let's say 500 is our starting. 400, 300, 200, 100, and 0. Okay, so this is the distance. And it is in kilometers. This is the convention. You always have capital letters for titles, and you always have the units for the axes. And we are going to show the hours. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll label 5 just for posterity. There you go. Okay, so we've got this set up now because first of all, we're looking, this goes from 0 to 4, we've got 0 to 5, so I like to go 1 over usually, give a little bit of space. This goes from 25, which is basically 0, to 465, which I'm going to round up to being 500. So I'm going just a little bit beyond that to give myself a nice round and even graph. So this is time in hours. Okay, so every hour I go an extra 110, but I start at 0. I start at the quarter mark, 25. So every hour I go an extra 110. So it goes roughly like this. And you can see, I mean, my graph isn't great, but you can see that it's a very straight line. This is why it's called linear equations, because this line here is going straight. And we can make all sorts of different graphs, and as long as our line is straight, we're going to have a graph that makes the following formula. And let me show you what that looks like. Y equals mx plus b. Okay, so it's inside this formula. Now, y is always the responding variable. So this is like a science thing, right? Responding variable. Okay, and in this case, it would be distance. So the y is always this is the y-axis, and this is the x-axis. Okay, so now we can look here. X is the manipulated variable. Okay, so we've got those two, that's obvious. But what is m and what is b? Well, m and b are both constants, which means that they're basically just a number, okay? M is first of all, the change, and more mathematically, it is the slope, okay? And b is the base case, which we talked about in the last video, or mathematically, the y-intercept. Okay, so I'm going to talk about these. Hopefully responding and manipulated variables make sense. And in terms of our graph, we've got y here, y here. Okay, so hopefully that one's clear. We've got x here, we've got x here. For m, let's talk about this one. So m is our change or our slope. So m is, if you go any part of our graph, and especially since it is a straight line, doesn't matter, but because we have two numbers, we can use those, and it's going to be very nice and easy. It's the change. Okay, so this is sort of the slope, and it's y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. Now that looks complicated, but all that means is x1 is this 3 here, x2 is the 2. So 3 minus 2 is 1. Okay, so it took 1 hour to do it. And how far did they go in an hour? Well, it's the difference between 3:55 and 2:45, which we know already is 110, right? Based off of this one. So this 110 is our change, right? That's every hour. How much do we change? 110. But this is the formula for slope, and that's mathematically what we can look at. So hopefully that one makes sense. And lastly, we have the base case or y-intercept. So I'm going to show you as base case, it's where the manipulated variable is 0. Okay, so there it's obvious. What is the other one? Well, 25. But on the graph, it's where our line crosses through this y-axis. That's why it's called the y-intercept. So, hopefully this video helps you guys sort of understand what the graphs are and how they are related to our linear equations. Good luck!